The French Revolution. Ah, what a whirlwind of change it was. A time when the very fabric of society was being torn apart and re-stitched in the name of liberty. It promised liberty, equality, and fraternity, ideals that resonated deeply with the oppressed masses. But it also unleashed a period of darkness and bloodshed that we now know as the Reign of Terror. From 1793 to 1794, France was gripped by fear and paranoia, a nation on the edge, as the revolution took a sinister turn. The streets of Paris, once alive with the hope of a new dawn, were stained with the blood of those deemed enemies of the Republic. The air was thick with suspicion and dread. This wasn't the plan, you see. The revolution had started with the best of intentions, a genuine desire for a fairer, more just society. The people of France, tired of the monarchy's excesses and the injustices of the old order, rose up to demand a better world. They envisioned a future where everyone could enjoy the fruits of their labor. But as the revolution progressed, it became increasingly radicalized. The initial unity began to fracture, giving way to more extreme factions. The monarchy was abolished, Louis XVI met his end at the guillotine, and France was declared a republic. It was a dramatic shift, but it came at a great cost. Yet, the path to a new society was paved with good intentions and, sadly, a lot of blood. The dream of a utopian society was marred by the harsh realities of power struggles and violence. Amidst this turmoil, a new group rose to prominence, the Jacobins. They were determined to steer the revolution in their own direction. Led by the enigmatic and ruthless Maximilien Robespierre, the Jacobins believed that extreme measures were necessary to safeguard the revolution from its enemies, both internal and external. They saw themselves as the true guardians of the revolution. They argued that terror was not a tool of oppression, but rather a necessary evil, a weapon to be wielded against those who threatened the very fabric of the new republic. It was a grim justification for the horrors that ensued. The Reign of Terror, my friends, was a time of immense upheaval and bloodshed. It was a period where the ideals of the revolution were tested in the most brutal ways. It was a period when fear reigned supreme, and the guillotine became a grim symbol of the revolution's insatiable thirst for justice, or at least what passed for justice in those tumultuous times. The echoes of that era still resonate today. Maximilien Robespierre, the man at the helm of the terror, was a figure of immense complexity and contradiction. Born in Arras in 1758, he was a lawyer by training and a staunch advocate for the rights of the common man. He was known for his eloquence, his unwavering principles, and his almost fanatical devotion to the ideals of the revolution. Robespierre, you see, was initially a vocal opponent of the death penalty. He believed in the inherent goodness of humanity and argued that every citizen had the right to a fair trial and due process. However, as the revolution progressed and France found itself embroiled in wars with neighboring powers, Robespierre's views underwent a chilling transformation. He became convinced that in order to safeguard the revolution, its enemies, both real and imagined, had to be silenced permanently. He argued that the revolution, like Saturn, would devour its own children if it had to, in order to survive. Thus, the man who once championed the rights of all citizens became the architect of a regime that would send thousands to their deaths without a fair trial. Robespierre's rise to power was swift and ruthless. He used his considerable oratorical skills to sway public opinion and denounce his opponents as enemies of the people. He became a member of the Committee of Public Safety, the powerful executive body that effectively ruled France during the Terror. Gap 3S. The aftermath of the Reign of Terror. After Robespierre's fall, the Reign of Terror came to an end, but its impact on France was profound and far-reaching. The country was left scarred by the bloodshed and paranoia that had gripped it for over a year, leaving a deep psychological impact on its citizens. The revolution had devoured its own children, and the ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity seemed like distant dreams, almost forgotten in the chaos. In the years that followed, France would struggle to find stability and rebuild its society, facing numerous challenges along the way. The legacy of the Reign of Terror would haunt the nation for generations, a grim reminder of the dangers of extremism and the high price of revolution. The psychological wounds were deep, with families torn apart and communities left in despair, struggling to heal. The guillotine, once a symbol of justice, had become a dreaded instrument of fear and oppression. The political landscape of France shifted dramatically as the new government sought to distance itself from the atrocities committed during the Terror, aiming for a fresh start. Reconciliation and healing were slow processes, and the shadow of the guillotine loomed large over the collective consciousness of the nation, a constant reminder of past horrors. The Reign of Terror, my friends, was not just a period of history. It was a stark lesson in the perils of unchecked power and the fragility of human rights in times of crisis, a lesson that resonates even today. The French people would carry these lessons forward as they endeavored to rebuild their republic and restore the principles that had ignited the revolution in the first place, striving for a better future. Gap 3S. The Legacy of Robespierre. Robespierre's name would forever be associated with the Reign of Terror, a period marked by extreme measures and radical changes. To some, he was a hero who fought for the revolution's ideals with unwavering determination, a beacon of hope in tumultuous times. To others, he was a tyrant who betrayed those very ideals in his quest for power, leaving a trail of blood and fear. His legacy is a complex and controversial one, reflecting the turbulent times in which he lived and the extreme measures he believed were necessary. Today, historians continue to debate his role in the revolution and the true nature of his character, examining every facet of his actions and motivations. Was he a visionary leader or a ruthless dictator? The question remains as relevant as ever. The answer, perhaps, lies somewhere in between, in the gray areas of history where heroes and villains often overlap. Robespierre's commitment to the principles of the revolution, liberty, equality, and fraternity, was undeniable and deeply rooted in his vision for a just society. He envisioned a society where the common man would rise above the shackles of oppression and live freely, a dream that resonated with many. Yet, his methods, marked by the widespread use of the guillotine and the suppression of dissent, painted a different picture. His speeches were powerful, his resolve unshakable, but his actions were often brutal. For some, he was the voice of the voiceless, a champion of the downtrodden who sought to uplift the oppressed. The champion of the downtrodden, a figure who inspired hope and change. But for many, he became the face of tyranny, a man whose ideals twisted into justification for unimaginable cruelty and fear. A man whose ideals twisted into justification for unimaginable cruelty, leaving a legacy of fear and oppression. The dichotomy of Robespierre's legacy serves as a poignant reminder of the complexities of human nature and the perils of absolute power, a lesson that echoes through time. As we look back at this chapter of history, we are left to ponder the fine line between revolutionary zeal and oppressive terror, a line that Robespierre walked with both conviction and controversy. Robespierre, in his Rise and Fall, embodies the eternal struggle between idealism and reality, a struggle that continues to resonate through the annals of history and shapes our understanding of power and morality. A struggle that continues to resonate through the annals of history, reminding us of the delicate balance between noble intentions and their execution. And so, as we delve deeper into the era of the Reign of Terror, let us remember Robespierre not just as a figure of history, but as a symbol of the enduring conflict between the noble aspirations of humanity and the dark paths they can sometimes lead us down. Let us remember Robespierre not just as a figure of history, but as a symbol of the enduring conflict between the noble aspirations of humanity and the dark paths they can sometimes lead us down. A reminder of the duality of human nature. Gap 3S. Reflections on the Reign of Terror. The Reign of Terror remains one of the most infamous periods in French history. It serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of radicalism and the human capacity for violence. As we reflect on this dark chapter, we are reminded of the importance of safeguarding our democratic values and the rule of law. The French Revolution, with all its triumphs and tragedies, continues to shape our world today. Its lessons are as relevant now as they were over 2 centuries ago, urging us to strive for a society that upholds justice, equality, and human dignity. This period, marked by both the pursuit of noble ideals and the descent into extreme measures, stands as a stark reminder of how easily the scales can tip from justice to terror. The Reign of Terror challenges us to question the cost of revolution and the fine balance between the fight for freedom and the preservation of humanity. Let us carry forward these reflections as we navigate our own times, ever mindful of the past and vigilant in our commitment to a just and equitable future. One of the key instruments of the Terror was the Revolutionary Tribunal, a court established in 1793 to try enemies of the revolution. Now, in theory, the tribunal was supposed to dispense justice swiftly and impartially. However, in practice, it became a kangaroo court, where accusations were tantamount to guilt, and the presumption of innocence was a distant memory. The tribunal was staffed by judges and jurors who were often handpicked for their revolutionary zeal. Defense lawyers were virtually non-existent, and those accused of crimes against the Republic had little chance to plead their case. The trials were often swift and perfunctory, with the accused often sent to the guillotine within hours of their arrest. The charges levied against the accused were often vague and ill-defined. People were accused of being counter-revolutionaries, of spreading false rumors, of hoarding grain, of expressing even the slightest hint of dissent against the government. The tribunal's mandate was broad, its methods brutal, and its impact on French society nothing short of devastating. The Revolutionary Tribunal, my friends, was a symbol of the Terror's excesses. It was a court where justice was sacrificed on the altar of revolutionary expediency, where the rule of law was replaced by the rule of fear, and where the guillotine's blade fell swiftly and mercilessly on the necks of the condemned.